I'm sorry. I don't know. Oh,
Well, it'll be a two-parter. I've already shared it, so people
that's
can go
great.
back.
That's great. Part two, guys.
Be careful. Don't turn your camera around. It might have.
Yeah, yeah. I won't touch the camera. Yeah.
So you use a lot of paint. That's where you left off. Lots and lots of paint.
Lots and lots of paint.
So I'm all like out of sorts now trying to get this to load. So you have not really been promoting yourself too much on Instagram within the last, would you say, year or so? Is that
maybe even
longer?
well, maybe even 3 years. Yeah, I think 2019 I slowed down on Instagram. 2020, one of my best friends passed away, and I just could not be on here. And it's interesting how grief affects people different ways. But for me, I just couldn't be on Instagram. And I think that that is, yeah, so that was a lot of it. And then I just realized that I could do so much more for my collectors and for artists just by doing my email list. And so that's kind of where I've been focusing my marketing efforts. But I also just felt it was really important to just paint. And I know it's so counterintuitive because everyone says, get on Instagram, share your work on Instagram. It's so important. But for me, I felt like it was more important for me to do the work and to really create the things that I wanted to create. And I get distracted way too easily. Right?
Me too. The funny reels distract me the most. That's where I get stuck.
Yeah,
Sending
but you're great at them.
Sending my husband funny reels that are not mine.
I'm sure that Brian loves it though.
Yeah, we crack each other up all the time. Oh, like
Yeah.
I'll send him something. I'll be upstairs and I'll hear him cracking up downstairs. So that works.
I love that. That's so great. Yeah, no, Instagram, it got to the point where I felt like I needed to get on Instagram just for me. And so I started following some dance accounts, some pottery accounts, like fashion from other parts of the world, just like really fun, interesting things that I also love. Like there's this really beautiful singer in, I think she's in Ireland, and I like to listen to her. I mean, we're just talking. And so I would only get on Instagram to like really fill my soul and have it not be about art. And so that was kind of the way that I got back into Instagram. So I do get on still, at least to like respond to things, but I try not to make it a job like it used to be, if that makes any sense.
Makes sense. So before I forget, I got to ask Jenny's question. Are you running out of space with all those big paintings?
Oh my gosh. Well, that's such a good question, Jenny. When I was doing the solo show, I was running out of space. We've sold 3 of them so far, which is really exciting. And the 2 biggest ones in my house right now are sold. So they'll go to their new home as soon as that home is finished. It's getting close. So it's fine. I enjoy it because I know they're only going to be here for so long. And so I just enjoy them as long as I can and realize that then it's going to be empty, right? Like there's going to be nothing on the walls because one of those big one leaves and it's just like a whole wall is empty.
Did you have to take stuff down to put that up, or did you actually have the wall space?
So where the biggest piece is right now, I did have a bunch of shelves where I used to let all my paintings dry.
Yeah.
But then when I was painting the big ones, it just didn't, it seemed like we needed to get rid of it. So we just took down the shelves in the studio, and that's kind of what we did. And it's worked. It's been fine. but yeah, as artists, we're always like having to evolve and change things, right? And I love that. So
yeah, I don't have patience or with the dogs and the kids knocking into things. I'm not going to paint anything that needs to be in that house too long.
Yes.
That would not. I've thought about getting like a storage, like a climate controlled storage place, but I'm not painting big enough yet to feel like I need that. But that's always for people too if they don't have this.
Right. Well, and I think that you take a lot of your work to galleries and a lot of your work leaves pretty quickly, so it hasn't been a problem right now, but when it becomes a problem, I'm sure you'll figure it out.
Fingers crossed. Yeah, that's a good problem to have, right?
Yeah, it is. So, it is a good problem to have.
So back to not being on Instagram, how has that, I know you've painted more, you've been more focused. How how has that changed your business? Is that made it, like, how are you still marketing yourself? How are you still making it profitable for you?
Well, I'll be honest. The other thing I did was I just gave it to God, and I said, I know that you helped me create these pieces. Everything that I've learned is because of my heavenly parents and my Savior. So from the technique to the style, I feel like they've taught me everything, and I know that each piece is meant for someone specific, and I feel like I just put it in their hands. And it doesn't mean that I don't sit back and do nothing, but I'm really mindful of the people that they're supposed to go to. My husband's really sweet. Right before these last two pieces sold, he was praying a lot, like, help us find the people that these pieces are supposed to go to. And so that's been good. The other thing that's been super helpful is that we have this gorgeous designer / home decor shop in Midway. So I live in Midway, and they will take some of my big pieces, and they've been able to sell quite a bit of them, and so that's been good too. So yeah, when I do run out of room, Jenny, that's like the first thing that I need to do is take one to Beljar, and they are just amazing. I love those ladies, and they do design work, and so a lot of times they already have places that are waiting for pieces like mine, and so that's been really a great thing. But I think business wise, really just keep doing the things that I know that work. I obviously still update my website frequently. I do a podcast, maybe not as frequently this year, but I do the podcast and then my email list. And I'm not like, I used to do it like once a week for a while, but now it's not quite that frequent. But I think that's okay. I think the point is that the people that really care, that they get the information. So
how often are you? About once a month? I get them. I guess maybe once a month, maybe?
yeah, I think on average it's once a month. During the solo show, it was probably closer to every week or every couple weeks. Yeah, so whenever I have big things going on, then maybe it gets up to once a week. But yeah, I'd say average is once a month. And sometimes there's 3 or 4 months where I don't send anything, and that's okay.
Yeah.
So.
And how are you growing your email list now?
Okay, that's yeah.
Kind of stuff, but how are you growing that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. It used to be going to shows was the best way for me to grow my email list. But now I think people, this is horrible because I should just ask the people that are getting on my website and signing up, like, how are they getting on my website? Are they going there because they see my stuff in a show? Or are they going there because they're on Instagram for a hot minute and realize I haven't posted anything for a while? Maybe they should be on my email list. So I think, yeah, I'm not totally sure where they're all coming from, but I do try to tell people I do have an email list. When people ask, I just say, I have an email list. Do you want to be on there? When people buy things, I ask if they want to be on there. Yeah, it's just growing slowly compared to before when I did a lot of in-person shows. It was growing a lot faster, but I think that's okay too. I know that's a terrible answer because it's not really concrete.
Well, I think, when it comes to art and all that kind of stuff, and there's so many new things, and social media sucks you in, and even emails. I see your emails, I open your emails, but I'll be honest, I don't get to read everything.
Right.
I don't get to click on everything. Like sometimes I try to keep up to date, but I know like people just don't have time, or they forget, or whatever the case may be, So, and to send an email every week, I don't have enough to say every week.
No, I think it's okay. Yeah. Well, I think at the beginning when you're just introducing people to your work, I think that it's great to do it once a week because you can say, one week you can talk about your style, one week you can talk about your your subjects of your work or your process or what inspires you. Like there's a lot of things that you can do like that. And then once that's done, the best thing to do is to just put that into like a sequence, right? Like what do we call those? A nurture sequence. There's another like marketing term.
Like a flow?
Yeah, like a welcome flow or a welcome sequence.
Yeah.
And so then when the people first sign up, then they can get those and it gives them a jump start into who you are and what you're about. And then after that, I think it's just kind of keeping people up to date with what you're doing currently, which I think is great. But I agree with you. Sometimes it's hard to think, what am I going to talk about every single week? I think you need to talk about stuff when you want to talk about stuff. You should never make yourself do it. Just like I felt like it was becoming inauthentic for me on Instagram because I felt like I was being forced to do it instead of wanting to do it. So I think it needs to be similar, right? I don't get as overwhelmed by my email list because I'm not worried about likes. I'm not worried about people commenting. I'm just sharing the information and just serving my people in the best way that I can. And I just don't worry about it. So.
And do you notice the subscribers going up and down? And does that, how do you manage that? Because now it's kind of like, you can try not to look at it, but you look at it.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. So here, I think with subscribers, I think that, again, you want the people that want to be there on your list, because if they don't want to be there, they're not going to open your emails, and then you'll start to think, why do I have all these people on here if they're not opening my emails? So I would much rather, when people have got what they need to from me and they're ready to move on to someone else, I'd rather they just unsubscribe, you know?
Sure. I think about that too. I'm like, all right, well, they weren't going to support my art anyway, so it's fine. Or
totally.
And they don't need it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You know. So is there anything coming up for you? You had a really good, successful solo show recently. Is there anything coming up for you after
yes.
days in the solo show?
I feel like the solo show, I just needed to recover. It took me a couple months to kind of just rest and recover because my brain was just blown, because there's so much that needs to happen, you know, like I went on TV one time, did some press interviews. I mean, there's just all these little things, and you're constantly following up with people. So after I kind of recovered, then I was preparing for Swiss Days, and that's this like amazing, huge event here in Utah. It's kind of like a craft fair, but they do have fine artists, which it's been amazing for me. It's just down the street. It's literally a couple blocks from my house. And so that was awesome. And what I love about Swiss Days, I always get a lot of commissions. So I'll be working on commissions the next like 6-8 months just from that. And then I've got a couple shows here in Utah. There's one called Certain Women, and it's a religious show. And obviously it's all women artists that are in there. And so I'll be preparing a piece for that show. There's another show that I'm waiting to hear if I got into, and it's about heavenly parents, and that will be really cool. So, you know, there's a lot of pictures of Christ, there's a lot of pictures of God, but do we have a lot of pictures of our parents together? And I know this is probably out there for some of the people listening, but I think it would be really weird not to have a father and a mother. I don't know how you get daughters I just don't know how you get anyone if you don't have both. So I think that's going to be a special show. So I have some ideas of what I want to do for that. But these shows, I just do one piece for them, right? I just applied for a couple more regional shows. There's this awesome museum in Utah called the Springville Art Museum. And so if I can, I apply to theirs. Like maybe not, they have 2 like big shows that you can apply for, and the last few years I've only done like 1. It seems like I'm always busy doing something else, but I've applied for that, so we'll see if that happens. But there's kind of this balance of, you know, do you want to do those big shows where it's just you in your booth or your corner, or do you want to be in museum shows and just have one piece? And so there's kind of this balance of that. And for me, I just feel like the best thing for me to do is commissions, keep working on the stuff that I really feel just strongly about, and then I'm just going to keep doing Swiss Days. I just feel like there's no point in doing every show out there right now for me. It's just too much. I don't have time to do the things that I really want to do when I do those, and I get really behind on my commissions. So those are kind of the things that I have coming up. I don't have like any big plans. I still feel like I'm recovering from all that I've done this year. Isn't that horrible?
No. That was a lot. Just one of those big paintings alone you should have a month to recover from painting it, let alone doing all of them and then doing a solo show.
Yeah, it does. It takes a lot of energy, right, to do like any series or big piece. So I'm just trying to give myself grace to do good work by taking my time, I guess. So.
And going back to the God piece, does that feel like it takes a little weight off your shoulders?
Oh, for sure.
Let it go that way?
Yeah, I think it does. I think that we all feel deeply about certain things. And as artists, the opportunity to share the things that we feel deeply about, I think you're right. It takes weights off our shoulders. It gives us a different way to love and serve people around us, because we as artists, it's such a solitary, hermit-like experience, and I love that. Like, that's the biggest thing is my artist friends are like, "You're just a hermit now." I'm like, I love being a hermit. It's like the best thing ever. I don't want to go anywhere. My husband teases me. He's like, "No, you don't like to leave the house." It's like, true. I want to stay close. I want to be available for my kids, and I just want to, work on the things that are really just feel important to me. But at some point, those things are the things that help others, right? And it can be lots of different things. Some people, gravitate towards certain artworks for different things that they need at that time, and then if that's the payoff, right? When it touches people the way that it's meant to touch them, whether it's spiritual, whether it's hard things that people are grieving through and they need to see that kind of work, or like your moody pieces, like it just feels so comforting. And there's just things that we need specific times in our life. And so I guess for me, that's the payoff.
I agree with all of that. So I think that's a thought I've had over the last couple of days even is like the art doesn't matter. Like the physical art doesn't matter. Like in 100 years, if I'm in an antique shop, I'll be happy. If that art is anywhere, that's fine. But I think right now what matters is, does the collector or the person who's sharing it or liking it, does it connect with them? Is there something that they're connecting to that has nothing to do with me? Or it might have something to do with me. Maybe they like me and then that's what they're going for. I don't know. But usually it's better if they just connect with the piece that has nothing to do with me. I kind of just, like, once I do it, there's times where I have no problem putting a piece in an auction or giving one as a gift, because there's nothing left. I've done it. Now it's for somebody else to complete by connecting to. So for me, the physical piece is not why I'm doing it, I guess. The physical piece it's great. It's the outcome, but it's that connection with myself while I'm doing it that matters, with God, and then the connection that other person makes with the painting. So I don't know. Do you feel that way, or?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that's why some artists don't like to talk about their work, because they know that the pieces take on different meaning once it leaves the studio. And yet for me, I feel like for me to be authentic, I need to create something that is very meaningful for me, and then just know that it's going to take on a different, the people who own those pieces, whether they're prints or originals, they're going to have their own experiences. And I think just letting go, like you say, let go of those things and let them become what they're meant to be for those people.
Exactly. So is there anything, because you have a pretty distinct style, I can tell a Katrina Berg from a mile away. So is there anything that you have done that does not look like what you have? Like, are you playing around with anything lately that doesn't look anything like your work?
I don't think so. Is that horrible?
No. I think you found a groove, and I don't think that's wrong. But you never know. Some people have things hidden away that they're not showing anyone.
Yeah, I think that what's interesting is that for me, when I first started really pursuing, just selling my work, I was doing a lot of series and little minis, little small ones. And what I found with doing the big ones was that all the little things that I was doing, whether it was painting cakes and sweets or birds or flowers or whatever, like all of a sudden they're all becoming part of the piece together. So for me, I feel like the last couple years, it's been a culmination of everything I've been painting for the last 15 years, which is super fun. So in that way, I guess it may have been a little bit surprising for people to come to my solo show, because everything was so big and just felt like all the pieces coming together. But I don't know about I I really like the direction that I've gone this past year. So I don't know if I'll necessarily be doing something that doesn't look like my work, but I will let you know if I really jump off the deep end and like go crazy. So,
or even like doing a different medium. Have you
yeah.
played around with watercolors? Do you ever just do a little sketch? Or because for me, I get in this trap sometimes. I don't know if it's a trap, where it's like I have to make a finished piece. Like I have a really hard time sketching. Like I'm not that kind of person. So maybe I will be when the kids are older. I don't know.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I think for me, yeah, when I'm diving, like I call it cross training for artists. And when I'm doing that, I feel like it's in the kitchen where I'm cooking something new with my kids, or we're out on a walk and I'm just thinking about design and nature. And then obviously when I was diving into symbolism this past year, that felt like cross training for me, but all came back to all that exploring came back to my oil paintings. So I think it's interesting, but I do have desires to do other things. Like I said, I was following pottery for the last like 4 years, and I would love to do that. We went and made some pottery up at Sundance, and that was so much fun. Carl and I did that together one night, and we would love to do that, but we just don't have room to do it right now. So, and I just was so focused on that solo show that was all I was doing. But I think at some point, don't be surprised if you see me start doing some of my own vases and then painting the vases and then having those pieces show up in the paintings. Like something that I would love to do, and I don't know how many people I've told this to, but I would love to create some pottery, some vessels, and then you actually get to take it home with your painting. Wouldn't that be cool? So it's in the painting. I've painted it in the painting, but then you get to go home with the original, which would be super cool. So, but this is just things that I would like to do down the road. And you know how it is. I have 5 kids. We had 3 of them in high school last year. So I just felt like we were just white knuckling it because it was so much fun to be with them and all of their friends. But it did mean that all these fun, wild things that I would love to try to do, it's on the back burner. Like I'm just focused on very minimal, just to be able to create the work that I want to create and still have time for the relationships that mean so much to me, which are my husband and my kids. And so it really takes away some of the other exploring, right? But I don't know, like my daughter has her own little cookie bakery business, and so I'll help her from time to time, and so that's definitely creative. And then my twins have been doing a lot of creating themselves, and so it's fun to kind of experience that with them. But that's such a good question. I'm not doing watercolor, I'm not doing mixed media, I'm not really doing anything else, and I don't know. It's just supposed to be okay for right now, right?
Yeah, but I like what you said because I feel like I'm kind of doing the same things. It's like when you're cooking, you're being creative. When you're out in nature and you're taking photographs or you're thinking about things, or you read a book and you're inspired by what you're doing. I think that, we all think as artists like, oh, we need to be keeping a sketchbook in order to be great artists. And really, no, I do. I create when I'm in the garden or in the kitchen with the kids and I'm trying to think of a recipe or whatever the case may be. And because I'm focused on my medium like you are, I don't feel as I don't feel like I'm as pulled in so many directions. Like when I first started out, I had every kind of supply imaginable, and it was just pulling me in too many directions, and I didn't know where to go. And I said, all I want to do is oil paint, and all I want to do is landscape. And it's like, oh, I can get rid of all this other stuff and just have this and focus on it. Right. So I mean, I would never be a good mixed media artist. I would be terrible at it. It would not be good because it's just I need focus and attention. Yeah. So I completely agree and feel you on that. And 2, I think when, like you said, once the kids are older, more independent, grown up, who knows, maybe I'll try something else because that sounds fun. Like I love photography. I love film photography. I don't have a place for film to develop film or the money to constantly develop film and all that kind of stuff. So that's going to be maybe down the line.
Sure. Yeah, it's funny. I used to, when I was a young mom, I remember being almost a little offended when people would say, "Oh, don't worry, honey. There's a season for all things. Once your kids are out of the house and gone, then you can be an artist," right? And I always thought, I'm going to do it now. But in order to do it now means that you have to give some things up. Like it's almost impossible, at least for me, to do everything that I want to do right now with 7 of us here in our home. Like that just seems like it's not doable for me. Now, I know some people can do it, and I think that that's awesome, but I think that's where it's like, okay, if I am.
I don't think they're doing it. I think they're fibbing. Because I'm gonna like, there are artists out there who say they homeschool their kids. They're at church every weekend. They're selling collections. No, you outsourced something.
Something got outsourced.
Takeout. Somebody's cooking for you. You outsource that. Yeah. Somebody's cleaning your house. You outsource that. Maybe somebody's tutoring your children. You're outsourcing that. Like you're not.
Right.
Nobody's doing it all. Nobody's doing it all. As clean as I would like it right now. My kitchen is half painted. So like that's the way it goes. I don't have brand new shiny things. You know, I don't have a ginormous house because I want to paint. I don't want to go to work for a ginormous house. So that's how it works.
Yeah. You're right. That's so important. So I think, number one, don't look at other people and think, oh, I'm a terrible person because I can't do it all like they are. Realize that, like Megan's saying, we're all outsourcing something. And then number two, if you feel like you want to do more, then find out how to outsource stuff. Like for me, it was teaching my kids how to do their laundry when they were 5. It was teaching them how to cook so that we could all take turns cooking in the kitchen and doing the dishes and cleaning the house. Because like you said, I don't want to spend my whole day cleaning. We don't have a huge house either. And I'm so grateful because I don't want to have to clean up. I don't have to take care of all that stuff, right? So it's just, you know, I think there's so many things that we can do to still be able to do the things that we want to do, but we will have to give up something or outsource something. Amen.
Yeah. And don't listen to anybody on Instagram who says they're doing it all.
By themselves.
By themselves. They're not, you know, especially as a parent. It's like, hey, if you want to put your kids in daycare or you want to pay for private school or whatever, like go do what you're doing, but don't say that you're doing it all,
right?
Because you outsourced it. So that's my pet. Like,
absolutely.
But you can get that done when somebody else is helping you with the kids. That's just the truth of the matter. I wanted to go back because Michael Wall, he's an artist who I will be doing a chat with again. He says the process is for me and the final artwork is for the viewer, and I think that's how I feel about it too. I don't know. How do you feel about that?
Oh, absolutely. And I think that's why when people say, are you sad to give up these pieces? I'm not, because they were always intended for specific people. And again, going back to, like, I just really feel, whether you feel like it's the universe, for me, I feel like it's God. I feel like God gives us these gifts so that we can bless the lives of others. And so once it's finished, I can enjoy it, but then it was always meant to go to somebody else anyways. And that's the whole reason why we're given, or at least I feel like I'm given those gifts at that time. So I don't know. It's just a great thing to be able to create. I love to feel just a bit of that, divine gift to be able to create. And so I will take it as however it's meant to come, right?
Yeah, I agree. I think even I don't keep a lot of my artwork, but the few pieces that I have kept, I thought I'm keeping them for the kids.
Right.
You know, they're still not for me. They're for like, okay, they want them one day because maybe they will. Maybe they'll, things change as we all age and get older, and maybe they'll want something, and I keep that for them. I don't even think about, oh, it's going to be worth $1 million when I'm dead. It's not. It's not.
Yeah.
And that's how I think about it. It's still for somebody else.
Still for somebody else. I love that.
I think Michael Wall hit the nail on the head. The process is for us, and the final artwork is for the collector and the viewer.
Absolutely. I completely agree. Yes. Thank you, Michael. There he is. He's agreed. He's agreeing with our agreement of his very simple but very profound statement. But it's a deep thought, right? And I
Yeah,
think that's hard for people is it is hard for people to understand how you can spend that many hours creating something just to give it away. But isn't that the beauty of life is that if we want an abundant life, we have to be willing to not be so like selfish, and I maybe selfish isn't the right word, but if you want abundance, you have to be willing to just give things away.
absolutely. 100%. 100%. So, on that note, I think it's a good place to end. Apologies to everyone for the interruptions. There will be 2 parts to this. This also gets posted to YouTube, Katrina. I will
Oh, awesome.
download and figure that out. Thank you for doing this.
Oh, thank you.
This is still not good enough. I still want to meet you in person and give you a big
I
hug.
know.
We've been friends for a really long time,
Yeah.
and it's definitely overdue. But thank you. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. I really appreciate everything you've done. I don't know if you guys know this, but Megan and I have been friends for so long because she does so much for artists. And not only is she an amazing painter, but she's just one of my best friends. And so I just love you so much, and
Love
thank
you
you
too.
for doing this.
Thank you.
Yes.
And real quick, everybody, get on her email list, go over to her profile, click all the buttons. We all know what to do. Get on Katrina's email list and share her wonderful work and connect with her, because I know she loves connecting too.
Oh, thank you.
All right.
Much love, everyone. Thank you, Megan.
Oh, bye.
Bye.